Hi, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a minute, and I know we were supposed to do videos for Dragula every week, but we didn't do that either because Amazon Prime uploaded it randomly, and we just didn't get around to doing it. But we did watch every episode. Anyway, I felt the need to do a video tonight because I was in a mood. Not just about a specific incident, but this specific incident is what inspired me to feel this way. I mean, I felt this way for a long time, and he's known them. Just a reminder, this is my boyfriend, Shaun. We've been together for almost 4 years in February. I didn't know how to really introduce this idea of people being overly sensitive and the world becoming too politically correct and everyone being overly offended by every single thing. Like, you know, people say like, oh, it's 2019 and you can't say anything without people getting offended, etc. Cancel culture, things of that nature. And I felt it would be more real for me to give my views, my opinions, because they're not facts. Just because I feel a certain way doesn't mean that I'm right. With Shaun, because Shaun doesn't always agree with me on certain things. And on this subject matter, we've always kind of agreed to disagree. More so, argue until we get over it, and then we move on. But today, in this video, I've decided just to make sure that it is clear from the get-go that I'm not claiming to be correct. This is not, you know, the book of life. This is not what it should be, you should not be. It's just, this is my opinion, and I happen to share that opinion with a lot of people that I care about. Take that as you will. That's just why I want to have a discussion, because I feel like these conversations don't go anywhere without being a fight back and forth. Like, people, it's like talking to a brick wall, basically. Inspiration behind this whole thing was actually Mayhem from RuPaul's Drag Race of Season 10, who I actually love. I've been following her for a long time. I've seen her perform a bunch of times in Sacramento. I say that just you know, as a disclaimer that I don't dislike Mayhem, but I feel like even if I say that, judging from what I've read from her posts, she doesn't really give a fuck if you like her or follow her or whatever, which I understand. And this is not just her, this is just an example of people who, like, she kind of brought it up in my, you know, feed, saying that people get overly offended. And I think it came up right when, like, I want to say, I'm not 100% sure, but it was right when Dragula happened and the whole Fishgate thing happened, Hallow Eve, and also the baby thing. I'm going to talk about something I want to call the Hallow Eve effect, which is not a bad thing. I just think it's a more modern, like, people who know this genre of entertainment will know what I'm talking about. If they watch Drag Race, they watch Dragula, they watch, you know, social media feed. So I'll put a pin in that, and just talk about how what I thought she posted was kind of problematic. I wasn't offended by it, but I feel like it could rub people the wrong way. So the company Always, they do menstruation products, pads. They don't,
products.
well,
I know.
Formerly known as feminine products for periods and stuff like that. And they had recently did an article, someone did an article about how they changed the packaging. Just the packaging that took off the female and symbolic kind of imagery on the front of it. People were posting this kind of like, oh, that's cool. Like, it's not a big deal, but that's cool that they're doing something different. And it's not going to change the world, but it's just making it a little bit easier for some people in the community, you know, a little bit at a time. And a lot of people had, you know, issues about it, and then one of the people were Mayhem. Well, she didn't really have an issue with it. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to put words in her mouth or anything, but I feel like she had something to feel about it, because her caption on her, she reposted it, and her caption on her post was, I can't, facepalm emoji. And she's just kind of mentioned before how people are overly offended and everything is offensive and you can't say things like this and you can't do things because people get offended in 2019. I always kind of fall back on that. Kind of just irks me a little bit. That kind of prevents me from talking about stuff, because I know people who feel that way won't really listen, because they're not going to listen, because going by, I usually read people's posts, and if I feel the type of way, I'll read the comments to see if I'm the only one who feels this type of way about something, or if people who feel how I feel have told her and she has since learned from her words and, you know, grew from it. I'm not saying she has to change her opinion or change her mind. I just would hope that someone of her, like, popularity and her stature in the community that has a lot of followers on her Facebook page, like, would just consider, like, oh, okay, like, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but, you know, it's whatever. But she's very much set in her ways about, I don't care how long you've been following me, I don't care if you're my fan, what I said is what I said, and that's what I said, and that's it. That's fine. You can have that opinion. Freedom of speech, you can do whatever you want. The thing about people being overly sensitive, overly offended, usually, from what I find, when people say things are offensive, I don't think they really mean like, oh, I'm personally offended by this. Because of whatever. I think a way of saying, like, you shouldn't probably say that in everyday conversation, in public, and things like that. Like, it's just not, it could be considered offensive. I'm not saying I'm offended by it personally. It can come off as speaking for people or being overly sensitive and things like that. But, and there are some cases where people go really, really far out with it. And there are some cases where I'm just not sure because I don't fall into that community when it comes to, like, people who, like, criticize models who pose in wheelchairs because it's, like, ableist or something, because they're, like, posing in fashion that's something that they live in. And for me, like, I don't really think that's offensive, but I also don't live in a wheelchair, so I can't say. I'm not going to tell people, you can't say this and you can't say that. That's not what people are saying. If they're saying that, that's not the right way to go about it, I don't think, because you should not police people on what they can and cannot say, especially on public platforms, on their personal pages. But I feel like people take that as that all the time. They take that as an attack on them, as like, you can't say that, instead of just taking it as like, what you said may hurt someone you care about. They take it as, you can't say this, or you can't say that because I'm offended. And that's what most people, from what I've seen, people on social media take that as their stance. It's like, oh, you can't tell me what I can and I cannot say, and you're not going to put me under attack for doing this. So with the always thing, they changed it because they want to be more inclusive. They could have done it to make more money. Who knows? But it wasn't like this was the cause of, like, petitions and riots and protesters and all these things. She felt a type of way about it in order to post about it. And I feel like the people who complain about people being oversensitive and overly politically correct and comedy and drag and can't drop a hat without offending people are always the first ones to complain about people doing something that is considered overly sensitive or overly politically correct, if that makes sense. For example, like, that didn't really make a big buzz on my Facebook feed as far as always changing their packaging. But the fact that she went out of her way to post that created this, like, 84 comment thread on her Facebook page. Aquaria responded to it, gave her some opinions. She was kind of, like, not harsh, but she gave her some tough love about it. She's like, I love you, but you should know that this is kind of something that can hurt people that follow you. And it's a little disheartening, but it's basically word vomiting. And I made sure to preface this with, like, I don't want to have an argument or a debate. I don't want to say that I'm right and you're wrong, but I want to just discuss this because I feel like I've always wanted to talk about it on my social media and open the discussion, because I feel like there's not enough conversations happening about this stuff. Like, very simple, like, offensive, what's offensive, and what's politically correct and what's not, you know? Those conversations aren't being had. That creates boundaries where people don't bother getting past, and that creates divides with people. For me, and then my circle of friends that have had the conversations about certain terms and things like that, we've been able to discuss it face to face in a dressing room, and then we can have different opinions and agree to disagree and be cool and be sisters and all that stuff. I don't see why people just can't do that on the internet. Basically, I just want to start off the conversation in, like, bits, because I don't want to get off and go on off target, because it'll go off tangent for a long time. But you were talking about earlier when we were having dinner about how you feel about, let's just keep it to Mayhem, I guess, as an example. Like, your personal opinion about, like, people's, like, posting their things on social media.
Okay, so I brought it up because you had, in the car, you gave me a premise of us making this video and what we were going to talk about. And you made a comment and you were telling me the cliff notes of why you had the idea and felt that that could, like, offend some of her fans or something like that. Something along those lines. Like, that would hurt somebody's feelings.
Well, my thought process of her, like, the way she just kind of came off on the post, that particular post, not all of her posts are like that, but that one was kind of like, it just kind of seemed to just brush away anyone who had an opinion other than hers, and she didn't really seem to, like, consider why it was making people upset. So it was kind of disregarding, in my opinion. That's what I meant, yeah.
Okay, but it's still a little out of context for me because I haven't seen the original post. If I, like, maybe dove in as deeper, my opinion wouldn't have changed. I would still be like, well, it's their social media, so they have the right to post whatever they want. Now, do I believe that somebody who is in the public eye and almost like a public figure and can be influential should be cautious about what they post for themselves and how they want to portray themselves? Yeah, that's kind of like everyday, you know, we have have to kind of consciously think about what we're saying, but do I have to, or do they have to filter themselves on their own page, on their social media? I don't think so. And, like, I post stuff on my page, and I know I have people who... My Facebook page is private to people who I allow to see. It's not public. It's not open, so not anybody or everybody can just come and see what I post stuff on my Facebook, and I share things because it makes me feel some type of way, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether I just think it's funny. Doesn't necessarily mean I have a strong opinion about it, and I want to share it because I think it will make somebody else laugh or have somebody else's opinion or draw up some type of conversation. And I know that some of my posts do offend people. Some of my posts do cause problems with some people, and they have the need to make a comment on it, and then I just get rid of it because I'm like, look, I don't want your negative. I was just posting it for fun, and it was funny, and whatever. Now, it'd be different if somebody reached out to me and said, hey, you know, that thing you posted really offended me, I felt, because this personally relates to me. Then that's different. Mm-hmm. That's different, but I don't think anybody should be told what they should and shouldn't put on their post just because of the people who are following them.
Mm-hmm. I also don't think that people should be forced to apologize for stuff. Like, you need to apologize right now. Like, I don't think that's what be, like... I mean, I understand their viewpoint, obviously, but I don't think telling someone to apologize...
It's like not authentic.
That's like your mom saying, say you're sorry. You know, it's like, you can say you're sorry, but until they feel the need to do it on their own terms, and there's not a public scandal on YouTube about it, then they're like, oh, let me put on a hoodie and my glasses and do an apology video. Like, that's just not... You know, whatever. If people can just be like, okay, like, I fucked up. Sorry about it. I probably won't do that again. Like, not everything has to be so formal, but I think sometimes people are just so, like, not stubborn, I want to say, but, like, they're so into people. They don't want to be wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, if you post something on Facebook that you have friends lists, and you make a post, kind of like Twitter. Like, okay, what is Facebook? It's a social media platform. And when you post things, what are you doing with them?
Sharing them.
You're sharing them. And when you share something, that almost implies, give me your response. I know she probably didn't ask for it, but for me, anyone who puts anything digitally out into the world, if it's a Twitter, Instagram, if the comments are not disabled or disableable, then you should be open to people commenting on what you say. If you feel the need, that you feel so strongly about something, that you have to be like, click, emoji, post. There's so many things that I see that I'm like, that's so fucking stupid. Like, even if it's not, like, a political stance or whatever, I'm like, that's so dumb. Like, I'm not going to give them the time of day. I'm not going to give them the energy or my view or whatever. Or I'm not going to post, like, oh, look how stupid this is because I hate it. Like, no, I'm not going to get anyone to see it because the, 1,000 people that I have in my circle of social media friends, not including my 13,000 subscribers on YouTube because that's not real. I probably have like a couple hundred, if that people actually pay attention to what I'm posting because I post so inconsistent. And even with my podcast and stuff, I have like 30 listens, but I don't care that much about that because that's just me and my friends. So as long as me and my friends are talking and having fun, like that's all I really care about. That's why when I did my podcast episode for myself, I was like, I don't like it, I'm boring. And I'm like, you're entitled obviously to post whatever the fuck you want to post. You can't sit there and be like, oh, I didn't know I was going to get any kind of backlash. Because to me that sounds like you're just not considering that as a possibility.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, she probably did it on impulse and she probably didn't think about it. So many people who post things because they're in the moment or they feel like they can't, express it anywhere else other than on Facebook or Twitter, and they get backlash from it. They wonder why, and they wonder why people are so overly sensitive, and because people who do things that are like that don't own up to it, and they don't take action for the consequences. People get angry like I do, I get frustrated. So that comes off as us being like social justice warriors, like, you triggered me or whatever.
I'm not well versed on like social statistics and stuff like that, but
me neither, yeah.
I mean, like, I know that sometimes people post things and they're posting not because they're thinking about whether or not they're going to offend somebody. I mean, like, I never thought that in all my years of starting social media when, like, social media first came out. Like, I never had to second guess, like, is this going to offend anybody? Like, should I not post it because it might offend somebody or cause some type of thing? Now, like I said, that's me. You know what I mean? That's not somebody with some big presence on social media or anything. I do feel like people who have a bigger presence and can be influential in some way, shape, or form should be a little more mindful about what they're posting. But again, at the same time, I still don't feel like everybody should have to always second guess if their post is going to hurt somebody's feelings.
You know, yeah, definitely.
Or like start like some type of
like Azalea Banks.
conversation or something. I don't know.
She is a woman, but like Azalea Banks is like known for being like problematic as fuck because she always tweets like these offensive ass things, and she's kind of known for that. I feel slightly guilty because I like Azalea Banks. She says really, really offensive things, but I feel like I've discussed this with my friends. Like I feel like she's kind of like on a mental, she's on a different mental level. She might have had some trauma in her life or something like that she feels a type of way about the world, and she sees the world and hears the world differently, and that can go for a lot of people who put things like art into the world. And I think she's like really innovative, and I think she's like, I don't want to throw the word genius in there, but we've talked about this. Like I'll just say it, when you're like a genius, like most geniuses are kind of crazy. That's kind of like not politically correct to say, but I feel like
genius.
Yeah, but no, I mean like saying someone's crazy. You know, like someone who might have different, like a different mental structure sees the world a different way, so they're able to like take things like music or art and be like, I see music this way, or I hear music this way. So the people who don't think that way, it'll be, you know, it's innovative, and that's how people do new stuff and things that are abstract, because the people see things a different way. It's like, that's why I feel like some people, like even like Lady Gaga or people like that see things and do weird stuff, see the world a different way, and they put it out that way.
Yeah.
And some people like Azalea, and for that, I guess the second, like the back end of that is that they also say a lot of offensive stuff, and they don't know when to filter out their thoughts.
We should probably disclose in the beginning that this could be like a trigger.
Well, I mean, if it's triggering, but I mean.
No, but I'm saying just.
No, yeah, I know. Mental health, and some people like probably Mayhem would be like, I don't want to trash talk Mayhem or anything, but that take trigger warnings and they're like, oh, people are so sensitive. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying. In today's society, the term offensive has gone to be used very loosely. And kind of.
I try to say problematic.
Yeah, problematic I think is more of what I mean, it's different. Like, what you're saying, these people posts are problematic because it creates a lot of negative and problems, right?
Yeah.
But then, like, people who use the term offensive, we should be using it when it directly offends us and hurts our feelings, but not saying, oh, what you said could be offensive to somebody. Well, I mean, anything I say, no matter what, at any time could be offensive to somebody. So, like, using that as an excuse to try to filter somebody's thoughts and opinions, I don't think is the right terminology. I think there's a better word for that. You know, like, oh, you might hurt somebody's feelings. Yeah, that's different. I mean, they're very closely related. I mean,
if they're hand in hand.
Obviously, like offensive.
Well, offensive. Saying offensive implies hurt, or someone's being hurt by it. When I consider things problematic, it's like it causes problems. But mainly, I have an angry reaction, or it just pisses me off because it's just stupid or ignorant. I don't get sad or hurt or offended by it, but in hand, that might offend someone who I care about. Or, for example, I don't know if y'all know, but Shaun is a trans man. And back in the day, I was on this collaborative channel called Queens of the Week. And this was back when the word, I'm going to say it, trigger warning for people who are trans, the trans community. But I feel like the word exists, and I think erasing it, for whatever negative connotation it had, is wrong. The word, like, some people still identify as it, they are proud to be called it, but the word tranny was coming under attention because of Drag Race, and just the world was evolving, the society was evolving.
Yeah.
And on the topic was saying the word tranny offensive, because one of my friends, she used the word tranny a lot, and she happens to be a trans woman. And I think it was half and half. Some of us didn't think it was right, some of us didn't. And I'm like, obviously, for me, I used the word tranny beforehand because I identified with that community, because transvestites, transsexuals, transgender people, we are trans. I thought we were, you know, when we're walking on the street, people are going to call us a tranny. And I'll stand with my fellow trans people, because I can walk that walk for like 4 hours a night, but trans women, they live that 24 hours a day. So for me, I'm like, I'll be with them. If you're going to be like categorizing us, like, I'll stand with the femmes, I'll stand with the trannies, and I'll be on their team if you need, if that be the deal, you know. But I knew that some people didn't like that word, and I was like saying how, this is before I knew Shaun, this is years ago. So I was saying like, well, if a lot of people who are of the trans community say, this isn't really right, it's offensive, it's problematic, I would prefer you not to say that word. And I had this whole tiff with this girl named Tatiana, I forgot her name. I'm cool with now, I actually forgot her actual full name, but she was saying like, you know, my trans man friend, he uses tranny, he doesn't care, so why does it matter? And I would try, I guess my debate with that was, just because 1 out of 5 people is not offended by that word, it doesn't mean it's okay for everyone else. But then she said to me, like, well, if only these people are offended by it, then why is it such a big deal? Like, for me, like, the word faggot doesn't offend me.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah, like the word faggot. Whenever I see gay people around, I'm like, oh, look at that faggot. Like, I'll say it to myself, to my friends, like, it's the irony of, like, making fun of something ridiculous. Like, the word faggot is, like, I'm not, like, Brooke Candy, I'm not, like, branding fag. I'm not taking back the word fag. I'm not tattooing faggot on my chest or whatever. Some people do that, and I'm like, that's fine. Why not?
Yeah.
But I know that for me, saying faggot, I would say more so for, like, the older generation and stuff, people probably don't like that word. And it's the last thing that a lot of people heard before they died. And same thing with tranny or female. Like, when people get murdered, trans women get murdered all the time, they probably, the last words they hear is tranny, or tranny bitch, or faggot this. So, that's from, like, I forgot what we were even talking about.
We did.
You never post anything because you don't want, you never had a second guess something being potentially offensive.
Oh, that's right, I forgot about that.
Again, like, what you say is completely true. It's hard to speak on it when you're not, like, a public figure. For me, it just seems a lot easier that if something I feel a type of way about, if I don't feel strongly enough about it that I can defend my feelings about it, or I can justify my feelings for it, and own up to it, I won't post it, if I can't do that. So that's why most of what I post are, like, cat videos, and Paula Deen videos, and all this stupid stuff. This isn't even our cat, by the way. Like, I feel like, again, like, even if you're not on a public platform, and you're going to post something publicly like that, you should be, just as much as you have a right to post it and not be filtered, people have a right to comment about it if they see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, now I want to just cut to the chase of the second part where I want to talk about the Hallow Eve effect, which I've never talked
I
about.
wasn't prepared for this.
I'll discuss
Okay.
it. I haven't really told anyone about this, but it's basically, the idea is known. It's just, I labeled it this way because I feel like she was kind of, like, unfairly judged for it. So if you watch Dragula, if you watch Dragula season 3, Hallow Eve, assigned female AFAB, she was AFAB, assigned female at birth performer. She's post-binary, something with a penchant or for anarchy or something. She was ew. You can keep that on there. She was, you know, controversial. She spoke her mind a lot. The first episode was about fishy, and how fishy was considered this certain thing, and how she didn't like people using it. And the whole Fishgate thing started and created this massive worldwide thing. A lot of people took that, her saying, I'm not going to sit here and let you say, like, listen to you say that word. So for her,
Yeah, I'm familiar with how she speaks.
it was a little harsh, but I don't
Yeah.
know what the edit was, because I'm not sure if she had been like, that word is something, and they just cut to her being like, I'm not here for that word because of whatever. We'll never know because we weren't there, because of editing. But I feel like with Hallow Eve, she had a lot of opinions that I don't know if they were escalated that quickly, or they just chopped and screwed them enough to make it sound like she was just screaming about everything all the time. And a lot of people took that first episode and they're like, I think a lot of people were like, oh, I can't say this anymore. That was the phrase that they would always say, like, oh, I'm not allowed to say this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Blah, 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 blah. Or in that first sentence, I feel like that's the issue, where people were like, oh, I can't do this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, they didn't say you cannot do this. She was saying, like, I don't like that word, so try not to use it in front of me. People like that, we're not going to sit next to you and listen to every word you say when you're not around us and be like, hey, you said that word. It's just be mindful of who you're around, and then be mindful. Because there's some things I would say between us or to my friends I would not say out in public. It's like how I would say, like, I would not say the same things at my workplace that I would say with my friends because of how they could be taken. It's not that hard to think about that. Like, if I'm able to shut that off and on when I'm at work, or when I'm at the club, or when I'm hosting and I have to be likable and they can't say offensive stuff. That's like, but even when you're in drag, it's like the line of offensiveness is kind of blurred.
Oh, super.
And it depends on who can get away with it. Really, that's the,
I mean,
that's the
I don't
case.
do drag.
I mean, for me, like, I like to host and not be like, oh, I don't want to go for like the racist joke or this thing. Like, I want people to be like just comfortable.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times older generation drag queens are part of that big group of people who are like, oh, people are so offended and so sensitive, and you can't do anything without hurting people's feelings anymore. I think it's because a lot of times drag comedy relies on that kind of like not PC comedy.
Yeah.
And again, like for me, like I love roasts, which are not great. You know, there's racism.
They are not politically correct.
There's rape jokes. There's only things like that.
They are offensive.
Yeah, but those
But they're
roasts,
funny.
but those roasts are set up specifically for that reason. Like they are for that. That's like the arena, and these jokes are things that once they say here, they stay there. There's this everyone in the room who's participating in it has that agreement of like, okay, anything goes, and I'm aware of it. I'm here. I paid to be here. I'm participating. I'm getting paid to be here. Depending. And people are gonna say some fucked up stuff because a lot of times I think doesn't like the roast don't they like donate money to charities?
I don't know if that's
I
accurate.
think, but
really?
I could be wrong.
Fact check, please. Somebody fact check the
I'm probably
the
completely
roast
wrong.
thing.
But
this is gonna be a thing.
Doesn't that make more sense though? They did do that.
I mean, it would be great.
I feel like
It'd be a great concept.
I might have made that up.
Maybe you should start it.
Either that's a really good idea or I'm right. So it's not a bad case to be in, I guess. To be wrong in this situation.
I guess.
But everyone who's in that room knows that's going to happen. But when you go to a public place, a public forum, you don't know who's listening. That's why Bianca Del Rio came under some attack because she made a rape joke about Blair St. Clair
I saw that.
at I think it was like a Canadian Pride event.
I mean, I didn't see that.
And that was when I'm like, oh, that wasn't the best time to do it. Because she's used that joke before, but she used that joke at the wrong place,
At the wrong
time.
place, wrong time.
And, when it's like an all ages open event, I'm not sure if it's all ages, but like usually Pride events are mostly all ages.
I get it. Okay.
They're public.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I didn't even like fully go into what the Hallow Eve effect was.
No, you didn't.
So what I'm calling the Hallow Eve effect basically is she had a good point about the Fishgate thing, the word fishy. And then like a few episodes later she had a thing about the word baby, calling Yoska a baby. And
what's that about?
Remember he was like, oh,
no, I know that, but is that a thing?
She said that she said no.
Oh.
She said that it had they said that it had to do with like it kind of like demeaned her. It made her sound less than, and they're like, no, they don't really mean it like that. Like even me was like, no, I think they just meant like she was precious and she was cute and small and we liked her.
Young or new.
Yeah, but she felt type way like, I'm not gonna call her that. I'm gonna say this, and then it goes into things about her outfit when she wore the tampons and stuff like that. She's like, I will not change anything about this because this is for women and this is this. So she kind of went off onto literally went off yelling about what it was and how she didn't want to change and how she thought what she did was right and things like that. And I think that is the image of what people see and be like, oh, like we can't say anything or we can't do anything because people are so sensitive. And even though people might start off with like these good like intentions of saying, hey, this is kind of problematic, you probably shouldn't do this. And then they get passionate about what they're doing and they get kind of like, they look kind of extreme. And then that's when it comes down to being like, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to them because they think everything's offensive. So why should I listen to them if they think everything is offensive? They can't be right. But they don't consider like, oh, maybe this one thing or that one thing actually is kind of problematic. I probably shouldn't say that. But the basis that this person's really extreme and really passionate, really loud and really, talkative about it, it comes off almost like you can't say this, you can't do that because this is wrong.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't respond to that. And I think that's why a lot of people didn't really respond to Hallow and a lot of people didn't like Hallow in the end because of how she was acting. And I feel like that was kind of, I'm hoping it's just because of the edit, they chopped her out and just kind of chopped right into the escalated part of it where she was really, really loud about stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really believe she was that strong about every single thing immediately. Because most of the time in the beginning she had very like logical and very like it was easy to understand her point when like she was talking about filth and how that she kept her things in the freezer and so she'll say things to your face and it comes off a type of way because people don't really talk about stuff. They don't really bring it up. It's a lot easier to brush away someone's comment when they're not in front of you face to face.
I didn't even know that whole fishy and baby thing was such a big controversy.
It was a really big deal.
The
thing that made it was funny though because it wouldn't have been a big deal if people were just like, okay, like this person who has this very reasonable explanation of how they feel that way and why it's wrong, we probably shouldn't say it, is saying it. And I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it. I don't really say that word anyway. Like that's kind of an old word anyway, but people don't really say that anyway. Like that's like so season 3 of Drag Race. Like it's not really a thing anymore, you know.
Yeah.
Stop saying. Just like the word like tranny. That wasn't hard for me to stop saying because I said it in front of someone and they're like, you probably shouldn't say that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, and I didn't say it. I bring it up as to just like to discuss the word.
Discussion.
Yeah. I don't use it as like
No.
I don't use it casually anymore, or you know I don't refer to anyone as that or whatever. It exists. Like I don't think that you should erase the words from history. It's there. But if we don't acknowledge that the word is bad or whatever like that, it's like it never existed and people get away with using it. So I think that if there's stuff that is offensive, and even if we like stop saying it, we should at least acknowledge that the word exists so we can keep remembering why we don't say it. Mm-hmm. Or else people are going to forget, you know. Have you ever been around people or heard someone say something publicly that you're like, that kind of makes me feel uncomfortable, or that makes me feel type of way?
Yeah, but I don't think that's being overly sensitive because it was something directly related to me.
So, yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
So...
Like, not even like if they're using a slur. I'm just saying, like, they can say, like, you know, the sky's blue. And, like, if you had something to do that made... If that phrase triggered you in some way, and if someone was to speak up about it...
But being triggered and being overly sensitive are two different
I know,
things.
I'm just saying, like, I'm not... But people... See, a lot of people don't understand what being triggered is. And they think that you're just being oversensitive.
Okay, well, see, then there's a difference.
A lot of people don't know that.
Okay.
I didn't know what triggered even was.
For the purpose of this conversation and your dialogue and question to me, mm-hmm. Trigger and sensitive are two different things. But now you're clustering them together.
But can you imagine that people would think that someone who was triggered, because people always say triggered, like, oh, they're triggered, or I'm triggered.
See, triggered is a loosely used term now too. Because I don't want to say it's common knowledge. It's become common terminology with the lack of really knowing what that means.
Yeah, it's used ironically more often.
Right, it is.
And I've used it ironically before I knew what it was.
It's a joke, you know. It's a joke, but people use it, like you said, like ironically or as a pun. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I think.
Oh, I didn't know what like triggered really was until I got triggered watching Stars Born. But if a trans man has to buy a menstruation product, that's triggering, right?
Yeah.
So,
I guess for some people it might be really triggering.
Yeah, I mean if they're comfortable
more so just for it.
Yeah.
I mean it depends on how I can't speak on that because I don't.
I know, but can you imagine though if like...
Actually no, let me rephrase that. I can't imagine. That's why I said here's a random fact and of how hard it is for someone like me to go do something like that. Mm-hmm. I used to pretend I was on the phone with some female
and buying it for them. I'm sure luckily that
all the time.
I'm sure everyone does
I'd be sweating balls.
That's like the
all the time.
That's the smartest because it's like, oh, it's for my mom, or you know, like
I'd be like, which one did you need?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm looking at.
No,
you know?
Yeah.
I used to do that, but that's
literally I think.
But I don't think it. For me personally, it didn't trigger me. It just gave me really bad dysphoria.
Yeah.
Like really, but it didn't.
It made you uncomfortable.
But it didn't trigger me.
Would it make you less uncomfortable if they were like a gender neutral product?
No. Because they're not gender neutral products. For a certain...
Well, it's biologically for assigned, they're for AFAB, whatever.
Okay.
But it's not gender though.
Okay.
Because you can be a man and need a tampon. Like, that's just a thing.
Okay, because those parts... For me, at least, I can't speak for the community, mm-hmm. but I'm sure other trans guys feel this way. Like, doesn't matter. You know, we're in a society now where people are learning the difference between sex and gender and
sexuality,
and all that. I get that, but for someone like me, before this was a thing that people are starting to understand, it's linked to that for me.
Yeah.
The term gender will always be linked to those things for me.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you have like a type of either good or bad or nothing feeling if a company like always was to be like, let's just try to make it a little bit different?
I mean, hey, that's cool.
Like you can appreciate that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm not offended by it. It doesn't make me angry. It doesn't make. I don't even question it.
If someone, if you heard someone that you look up to, you like. Not, I wouldn't say idolize, but in my instance, I look up to Mayhem as a performer. I think she's amazing. Someone that we look. Okay, imagine if Bruno Mars was like. Imagine if he was like, "That's so fucking stupid." Would you feel the type of way?
But she didn't say that.
But imagine if you did, because some people say that. Some people are like, that is so stupid. People are so fucking oversensitive.
Okay, but we're going based on this situation.
I think if someone you liked was like, people are just.
How about if he just posted exactly what she did?
Yeah, I mean, Bruno Mars is way more famous, but like, yeah, and you kind of have like this kind of. It has a negative connotation to what, even though there's no context of what they feel. It's like, oh my god, I can't.
It might. Probably. I don't know.
I'm trying to make it like I'm trying to make it more like relatable for you, for me, because like it makes it awkward because I look up to this person.
Yeah.
It's like whenever RuPaul makes something like a mixed comment about trans people, and it's like, ugh, I'm trying to root for you, but you're not making it easy. And RuPaul is someone I idolize and someone who like changed my life, and then to like have to like accept that they're just not the people who I thought they were, or they just aren't now. They might have changed. It makes you feel that way.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming like for people who like really love Mayhem, or anyone who makes public posts, and they post something that's not really problematic, but it kind of puts like a damper on something that's like that you might like, that you might be like happy about, and if someone you look up to like either laughs at.
I mean, I'll be disappointed.
Yeah, like I'm disappointed.
I'd be disappointed. I don't know if I'd be hurt.
Yeah, I'm not hurt or offended. I'm just disappointed.
Okay, no. Okay, well, I'd be disappointed.
I'm not offended. What she said was problematic, and I'm disappointed.
Okay, I would be disappointed.
Most people are just like, I'm kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are just like, I'm just kind of saddened by this.
I mean, I'm sure there are people who are offended.
Do I want to keep supporting her? Like, I don't think she's a bad person. I don't think she's transphobic.
I don't think, usually give a few goes before I'm like, oh, okay. I can't support you. Because, like, honestly, we want these people to be an ideal that we put in our minds for what we want them to be. But they're human just like us.
And you don't have to follow them or support them, but also you don't have to tell people not to follow them.
Right.
You don't have to tell people to cancel them.
Those are my...
But I still listen to Azealia Banks. You know, it's like, I'm problematic in that sense. Problematic phase, like Kim Petras too.
Yeah.
But I just want to have like a discussion. I'm going to chop and screw this up so much, so it sounds like you're the bad guy. Shaun just did a video talking about his top surgery on his channel, which I'll link. What's your channel's name?
Call me Shaun.
Call me Shaun. I'll have the link in the
You can just search Shaun Seriously.
Shaun Seriously.
Shaun.
Yeah, he had his top surgery September 11th, and it's now October 24th at 1 a.m. This was supposed to be like a 10-minute video, and it ended up being like an hour and a half long, so I have some editing, and I had audio too. Ugh.
You did this to yourself. You
I know.
just made it easy.
I know. But at least with the audio, I can... Not really a conclusion. Just an open discussion.
It was an open discussion. It was dialogue.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to have dialogue and just to discuss things openly. And if you have to agree to disagree, then that's it.
Talk to us.
Yeah. You don't have to
Leave
fight.
comments.
Like and subscribe.
Leave comments down below so we can know what video we should make next. I'm just kidding.
I mean, if it's successful, we can make our own channel together.
We could do that too. Let us know if you want to hear us ramble. Sorry. Okay.
Hopefully we'll see you guys soon. Happy Halloween. Bye.
Make it fun.